So Leo, give me the thumbs up when I can start. I can start now. Okay. Good evening, Erev Tov. My name is Rabbi René Pfertzel. I'm the co-chair of the Conference of Liberal Rabbis and Cantors and Rabbi Kingston Liberal Synagogue. And together with Rabbi Gili Zidkiyahu, who serves the liberal Jewish community in Nottingham, we are inviting tonight to celebrate Israel's 75th anniversary. Nevertheless, it is not a celebration with pure joy. Israel is facing its greatest threat since 1948, not from external enemies, but from people within who are trying to change the very nature of the state of Israel, its essence, its soul, as envisioned by its founders and also by the thinkers of early Zionism, the country that so many of us love dearly. When I applied at Leobe College, I was asked to write an essay to be read in public and discussed with my fellow students. I chose the topic, why is Judaism immune to totalitarianism? And I wanted to demonstrate that Judaism and fascism were incompatible. How naive was I? Today, we're witnessing in Israel the emergence of something that is at best proto-fascism, a threat to liberal democracy, following a general trend in many Western countries. Tonight, we have invited people who have decided not to stand idle by, people who are fighting the coup against the judicial system, the very heart of Israeli democracies. In a moment, you will hear from Anna Kislansky, the CEO of the Israel Movement for Reform and Progressive Judaism, who will address us from Jerusalem. Her words will be followed by a song written by the Jerusalem-born artist Avital Raz, who is currently based in Sheffield. I'm not sure if she's able to come tonight because she had a surgery today. So she sent us a YouTube video of her work. Then we will hear Rabbi Leah Mühlstein, the chair of Artseinu, the progressive wing of the World Zionist Organization, and also senior rabbi at the Ark Synagogue, who has just come back yesterday from Israel, where she's been instrumental in speaking up to powers in place and made our progressive voice heard loudly. We will also listen to Maya Aviram, an Israeli member of my community, with many of Israeli friends, went on demonstrating in London against the proposed changes. She will tell us about her worries, her fight, but also about her hopes for the future of the country. As you know, Liberal Judaism, at the initiative of Rabbi Leah Mühlstein, has asked rabbis and members to write a birthday letter to the State of Israel at the occasion of its 75th birthday. We will hear from members and rabbis their moving letters that express so well where we are today here in diaspora. Our deep concerns for the future of Israel, our stern rejection of the current policies implemented in the country, but also our hopes for the future of a country that is at the heart of the Jewish experience. Rabbi Charlie Baginski, CEO of Liberal Judaism UK, and Rabbi Rebecca Burke, co-chair of the Conference of Liberal Rabbis and Cantors, and Rabbi of Finche Progressive Synagogue, will read prayers written by Israeli rabbis. And together, at the end, we will sing the Hatikva, the hope, the Israeli anthem, which words were written in 1877 by Naftali Herz Imber, a Jew from a city called Zolochiv, near Lviv, today situated in Ukraine. But before we welcome Anna Kislansky, I hand the floor over to Rabbi Gili Zidkiyahu.
Thank you, René, and thank you for having me as a co-host for this evening. I'm privileged and happy to be doing it, and it's lovely to see all of you, all of your faces here on our shared screen. I'm Rabbi Gili Zidkiyahu. I am an Israeli rabbi, but now I'm the rabbi of Nottingham Liberal Synagogue in the past 7 months. So it's the first Yom HaAtzmaut I am celebrating outside my country. And it's actually a very interesting experience to be having this perspective on how things are in Israel and on what it is being a Jew outside of Israel. This is part of the reason that for me it was something that I really want to do, to be a rabbi outside the Israeli context and see the Jewish world from this side of things. So it is a unique opportunity tonight, as well as the past few months, every single day. And so as Rabbi René said, we will finish our evening with singing of Hatikva, the national anthem. But I want to open the evening with reading a few words from a song that was suggested a few times as a replacement or addition to the national anthem, and it actually appears also in our Sidur, in Sidur Lev Chadash. I will share my screen, but if you have a Sidur in front of you, you can also open it on page 197, and it is the poem by Shaul Chernechovsky that is called Ani Ma'amin, I Still Believe, and it is a takeoff on the well-known Hasidic verse, Ani ma'amin bevi'at HaMashiach, I believe in the coming of the Messiah. But this is a very humanistic Ani ma'amin, not in the Messiah, not in the divine intervention, but on the power, in the power of the human spirit. So let me share my screen and you can see the words with me. And this is, like I said, from our appears also in our Sidur. Sorry, my batteries plug was not working. Yes, sorry about that. So let's just see it on a
René, did we lose Gili?
We've lost Gili.
So
We've lost Gili, René.
Come back.
Okay, okay. So, okay, so we wait for Gili when she comes back, and now the next part of the evening is a prayer that was written by Rabbi Oded Mazor, a prayer for democracy, which we've asked Rabbi Rebecca Berg to read it for us.
So I'm just trying to share it so you can see this beautiful prayer that he wrote. Mishaberach Avotenu ve'imotenu Avraham v'Sarah v'Yitzchak v'Rivka Yaakov Rachel Leah Bilcha v'Zilpah. God of our ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Rachel, Leah, Bilcha and Zilpah. Bless those who stand in defense of democracy, equality, and peace. From among our people and those all over the world who work to repair society in the face of the threat to the justice system and the rule of law. May the Holy One protect them and save them from all trouble and distress, and from every plague and illness, from all harassment and injury and any attempt to humiliate them and undermine their commitment in the fight against indifference, inaction, and non-involvement. May their efforts be successful, and may they have a good eye to see wrongs done, a good heart so as not to stand idly by, and the strength to act, to protect the rights of all, to do justice and bring peace to every person made in the image of God in the world. May the words of the Torah be fulfilled, for because of this thing, God will bless you in all of your efforts and in all of your undertakings. And so let us all say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Rebecca. Has Gili come back? Not yet. Okay, so let's carry on. It is my greatest pleasure to introduce you to Anna Kislansky, who is the CEO of the Israel Movement for Reform, the Israel movement for reform and progressive Judaism. So welcome, Anna. It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Our sister movement, we are very, very attached to your movement, and over to you.
תודה רבה, ערב טוב, חג עצמאות שמח, חברות וחברים יקרים. It is, as mentioned before, a dramatic and complicated time in Israel, and it's not easy to just celebrate, but I think it is also our duty to celebrate the miracle of the state of Israel and the successes and all the good things that are happening in the Jewish country. So I do hope that you will have a chance to be proud of the state of Israel, and at the same time to, of course, strive to do whatever we all can to make it better, as we do in our movement. And I think that Yom Ha'atzmaut is the best holiday to explain, the best Chag, to explain the complexities of Israeli reality, because and actually there's a quote from a poem by Yehuda Amichai that says, it's called Etzev V'Simcha, sadness and joy. So I'm just gonna use a few words from the poem. He says, Amichai says, sadness and joy alternate like water and steam and ice. Sadness and joy from the same material. And these words accurately express the feelings in Israel around Independence Day every year, and not just this year, and the days that precede it in the Hebrew calendar every year. For years, we entered the week of the days that usher us from the Holocaust Remembrance Day that falls on the Hebrew date of the 27th of Nisan to Memorial Day for the fallen soldiers of the wars of Israel and victims of actions of terrorism, which is really one of the saddest days of the year. And from there into the joyful celebrations of Independence Day. And in recent decades, all the Israeli society, when we think about these days between the Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day, and Yom HaZikaron, the Memorial Day for the fallen soldiers, and Yom Ha'atzmaut, we often call this week the days of national soul searching, like Cheshbon Nefesh that we do between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim. And in Reform congregations in Israel, in the heart of these days, we celebrate, and we actually celebrated this just last Shabbat, Shabbat Tkuma, and the meaning of Tkuma is revival. And it has the same gravity as Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat that falls between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And during that Shabbat, in some of our congregations, an exciting custom has developed in which the prayers are read in languages of congregation member who came to Israel from 4 corners of the globe. And each reads a short prayer passage in his or her mother tongue. And the range is immense, and hearing our prayers in this manner is deeply moving and unique to our practices. And in recent years, I find myself beginning to take stock, to do Cheshbon Nefesh of our nation's soul already on the eve of Pesach. It is fitting then on the eve of Pesach to ask Ma nishtana. And I ask myself, Ma nishtana, this Independence Day, the 75th year of the State of Israel, from the other days of independence, what is special in this particular year? And I would answer that I think you know the answer. This year, it seems that our values and freedom are challenged and in question more than ever year before. Over the past 16 weeks, I have participated in demonstrations with many of our rabbis and even more members of our congregations, and joined thousands who have come together because our country, a Jewish and democratic Israel, is in danger. We are grateful to you and deeply moved by your moral choice in the diaspora Jewry to celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut with us and share together in our tradition in the ways that we say that the state of Israel, the nation of all the Jewish people, is part of you too. And you, on a daily basis, I think, even more than us, work to protect Israel from delegitimization and work to preserve the special relationship between the Jewish people outside of Israel with Israel. And say proudly that you stand with us to protect and preserve Israel as a democracy. And this is something that you do. I know that you participate in demonstrations in London and in other cities in the UK and all over the world. So we are grateful, we see you, and we are strengthened by your care and your actions. This is a dramatic juncture in the face of dangerous legislative initiatives, and the goals are basically weakening Israel's legal system and endangering the checks and balances of our democracy. And against these dangers, we must emphasize the mitzvah of protest. Our movement is in particular we feel threatened. There are anti-reform views of this government and its ministers, and we stand to lose much of our funding from the government. And once we lose it, we'll lose programs that provide critical support for rabbis and congregational activities, educational program, and assistance to new immigrants, including many from Ukraine and Russia. So we are also grateful to your movement and for your support and willingness to help us with raising the necessary funds. In Israel's Declaration of Independence, it is written that the state of Israel will be founded upon the foundations of freedom, justice, and peace in the light of the vision of the prophets of Israel. And on this Yom HaAtzmaut, I pray, and we all pray, for an answer to our prayers and actions for Israeli democracy and for a restoration of freedom, justice, and peace. Tomorrow morning, it's good. We're going to continue celebrating Independence Day, and as every year, the Reform Movement's communities will gather for a special morning prayer to mark the country's birthday. Alongside the prayers of Hallel, or blessing for festival days, we chant a reading of the Declaration of Independence, like we do for the Torah, using trope, and celebrate our sovereignty and our Jewish and democratic values. Together, we will continue to fight for a Jewish and democratic state, one that is open and welcoming to Jews of all streams and from all corners of the world. Od lo avda tikvatenu. We have not lost our hope. Chag Atzmaut Sameach.
Hag Sameach, Anna, thank you so much. I'm sorry for missing the first part of your words when my computer shut itself. So I apologize for everybody for disappearing in the middle of a sentence. And thank you, Anna, for giving us time from your festival eve. Enjoy the celebration tomorrow morning. We shared a few Atzmaut prayers like that in previous years, and it was always a very dear event.
I will be thinking of you, Gili, tomorrow morning. And
send my love.
Send your love to our congregation. Toda rabba.
Toda, Anna. Chag Sameach. Bye-bye. Toda. Over to you, René.
Sorry. Thank you. And thank you, Anna, for being with us tonight. Remember, you have the strongest allies possible with us here in the UK. So the next part of this celebration of Israel's Independence Day was or is a song written by Avital. Where have my notes? Okay.
Avital
Sorry, I'm
Raz,
just
I think.
Avital Raz. Yeah, she was born in Jerusalem, and she now works. Works in Sheffield at the moment. She wanted to be with us, and she's really sorry. She sends her apologies. She had a surgery today, and she was hoping to be with us tonight, which when she said us this morning, I thought, you're very optimistic, but that's, the power of being Israeli, being optimistic despite all the difficulties that life sends at you. So we have a YouTube video of her performance. So I don't know if it's Leo. Yes. Thank you, Leo.
You are my Jerusalem, an ancient pain that just won't end. You are my Jerusalem, both of us too stubborn to bend. You are my Jerusalem. I tried to love you both for years. You are my Jerusalem. We have shed enough tears to flood all Jerusalem. אם אשכחך ירושלים, תשכח ימיני. אם אשכחך ירושלים, תשכח ימיני. Like Jerusalem, ימיני אם אשכחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני Jerusalem, my crazy ex-lover I've gone away and found another I've quit this crazy scene I've quit this crazy scene Jerusalem, you holy myth You were too scary to live with אם אשכחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני אם אשכחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני אם אשכחך ירושלים תשכח ימיני תדבק לשוני לפיקי אם לא אעלה את ירושלים אל ראש שמחתי תשכח ימיני
How wonderful. Thank you, Avital. So wherever you are, we wish you refuah shlema, and we hope to see you soon, very soon. The next speaker is Rabbi Leah Mühlstein. So we're very proud at Korwag to have a colleague such as Rabbi Leah Mühlstein, chair of Pfertzel, who has gone to I saw you on social media last week, very, very active in Israel. So please, Leah, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to you, René and Gili, for hosting this wonderful evening and bringing us all together. Yom Ha'atzmaut Sameach to you all. A happy Yom Ha'atzmaut. I remember when I was on my year in Israel during my first year of rabbinical school, dancing through the night in Jerusalem on Yom Ha'atzmaut, celebrating Israel at 60. So the first thing is it's kind of scary that was 15 years ago. But I also reflected on that this past week while I was in Israel, and actually was filled with great sadness that instead of dancing on the streets with joy, I was standing on Saturday night with more than 100,000 Israelis in the streets of Tel Aviv, shouting "Busha," shame, because of the actions of the current government. The past week was, I think, one of the most challenging weeks for me in Israel. I'm quite used to being in Israel for the roughened, sometimes rough and tumbling politics that happen in Israel and in the Zionist movement. But I think last week really showed me that the times have changed. And I want to just share a few examples with you of why I think, or what I think are indicators of how much on the cliff edge we currently are. I was there for the extraordinary World Zionist Congress, Now, the reason it was called extraordinary was not because it was supposed to be extraordinary in its nature. It was simply because the 2020 World Zionist Congress could not take place in person because of the COVID pandemic. So the agreement had been that despite the Congress taking place online, there would be an opportunity for all the over 700 delegates from around the world to come together in Jerusalem and mark a World Zionist Congress, another World Zionist Congress. It was very unique it wasn't quite canceled with COVID, but that the Congress did not take place. All throughout the history of the more than 120 years of the World Zionist organization, that had never really happened. So we were supposed to come together and in celebration of Israel, in celebration of 75 years, but it wasn't possible to keep politics completely outside of the room, despite the fact that the decision was taken that no politicians would be invited to speak. That was already something extraordinary, because it is normal that the Prime Minister addresses the World Zionist Congress. But the decision was taken not to do that. But what we saw at the World Zionist Congress was something astonishing. In the committees, there are resolutions proposed. In the committees, none of the resolutions of the right wing succeeded in passing in the committee. And all of the resolution of the center left passed the committee. So it looked like we were in for great celebration on Thursday, passing all these wonderful resolutions, including a resolution which I had submitted criticizing the Israeli government about its attempts to abolish an independent judiciary, as well as a resolution protecting the current law of return, which ensures that anyone who has a Jewish grandparent has the right to citizenship, as well as ensuring that our conversions of liberal, reform, progressive, conservative Judaism are recognized for the law of return. So it looked like we were going to be very successful. And what we saw was that the right showed what they will do in this country if they get their way and the judiciary is abolished, the independent judiciary is abolished. They realized that if they don't have the votes, the best thing to do is to prevent voting from happening. And through tricks, by demanding a roll call on every resolution, now think about over 700 delegates voting name by name on 16 resolutions, how long that would take. They tried to prevent voting from happening altogether. In the end, we came to, after much shouting, that's why my voice is so bad, we did agree on electronic voting after the Congress. Nobody's going to pay any attention anymore, and I don't think in a sense that is going to be significant. What was significant is that the right showed that they are absolutely serious, that they are not in favor of democracy. On the Saturday, something else happened to us. We returned from our Shabbaton back to the hotel, and suddenly all our key cards were no longer working. We were staying in an ultra-Orthodox neighborhood. That was the luck of the draw of the World Zionist Organization, the Reform Movement, together with the Likud, were put up in the ultra-Orthodox neighborhood in the hotel. We thought it was just a mistake. They forgot when we checked in that we had booked late checkout for Shabbat. So when our chief executive went to the door to ask to have our key cards renewed, the receptionist just looked at her and said, "It can't be possible that we approved late checkout for you. You're not religious." That's the kind of country that Israel will turn to, that in future the receptionist, which would clearly be illegal right now, and we're probably going to file a lawsuit against the hotel, would be able to discriminate against you, whether you look religious or not, whether you get a late checkout on a Saturday or not. So things are really, really difficult. When member of Knesset Simcha Rotman was invited to the Jewish Agency board meeting. I tried very hard to get the event cancelled in advance. I was not successful. So armed with a Purim grogger, which wasn't very loud, and a whistle, which is really very loud, I decided to be very disruptive. It's not quite normally my nature. But I really wanted to make the point that this is not times as normal. And it was a really important signal, especially because the other thing that happened, which I didn't even realize while it was happening, was that a journalist who had come to interview me in advance and was waiting to hear from me after the event, she wasn't permitted in the room. But not only was she not permitted in the room, when she was sitting in the lobby just waiting for me, the police came to escort her off the premises. That is the country that the right imagine, where journalists who are just there to see and report will be escorted off the premises. On Sunday evening, there was a big gala event of the Zionist institutions and the Jewish Federations of North America to celebrate Israel at 75. Over 4,000 Israeli demonstrators arrived. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was due to speak. He cancelled because he was afraid. I decided to leave the event early and instead join the protesters. And it was really heartwarming and at the same time deeply sad how grateful the Israelis on the street were that we joined them. A woman handed me this little flag and said, "I've been carrying this flag for 16 weeks. I want you to have it and I want you to wave it in London." So on Sunday, I know we're going to hear probably more about this from Maya. On Sunday, there will be a demonstration in London. I'll be waving this flag, maybe my other flag. The T-shirt I'm wearing is the original, is the logo that they have created for Israel at 75, but they've converted the 75 into a lech, go off, go home. That was the call that the demonstrators shouted to Bibi Netanyahu to try and get him out of office. When El Al Security asked me if anyone had given me any gifts, I said, yes, I got 4 different T-shirts from the demonstrations. So I decided for this evening, it's going to be Lech and Israel at 75. It's a challenging time. I'll read my letter in a moment. But I thought we all need a stiff drink. Milk and Honey Distillery won for some unbelievable reasons, and I'm not quite sure I believe it. The best single malt whiskey competition. It's a distillery in Tel Aviv. So instead of with champagne this year, it's with a stiff drink that I'll be drinking to Israel at 75. So I think for now that's enough from me, and I'll hand back to René or Gili. I don't know who's doing the next, but thank you.
Thank you, Leah, so much. It is really heartwarming and encouraging to hear your reports, and I'm sure it was a very challenging time, but hopefully you felt that you're representing many others and that you're gathering strength from the people who are standing behind you on this important mission of being there and having a voice, being vocal about what we stand for: equality and democracy, and a bright future for the state of Israel, for all who live in it, and Jews around the world. So thank you, Leah. And this brings us to the personal note of this evening. So a call was delivered for people to write a personal letter to the State of Israel. Of course, a letter to the State of Israel would always involve personal and political and more that comes into it, as the term Israel is such a loaded one for all of us. And many people responded to that call, and we will be reading not all the letters, but some of them this evening. And I'm delighted to invite the first reader, Rabbi Sandra Kviat, to present the State of Israel with a letter, and we are all the witnesses to your words.
Thank you so much. Just checking I can be heard. So this is my letter. Dear Israel, you were the site of so many firsts for me. First time I experienced the beginnings of independence as a teenager. First kiss. First time I saw guns on the streets. First time I experienced the vastness and spiritual depth of the desert. First time that ancient history felt so close. You were also the first place where I first experienced real conflict, where poverty and politics and religion created an unholy mix of problems for everyone, and where my admiration and love for you were questioned. Questioning has always been an inherent part of my relation to you, but it feels more painful now. Though I know that the actions of some in government do not reflect all of Israel, I'm left confused, conflicted, and angry. How can some people turn our traditions, our history, and our morals into weapons of hate? The challenge of conflict was always part of our experience and learning, but I never expected to feel so conflicted today in how we engage with you. It has become harder and harder to defend you, harder to even talk about you without being fearful of others' reactions. Hard to see the polarization that occurs within Israel and within Jewish communities. But I know that I'm not alone in feeling this conflicted but powerful connection with you. A deeply felt sense of hope that transcends the current political situation. It was within your borders I first experienced a sense that being Jewish can be broader than the community we are in. It was with you that I realized that we're part of something bigger, something ancient, and something that stretches into the future. I hope that despite the bitter circumstances of today, we have many more birthdays to celebrate together. Happy birthday to Lürge med fødselsdagen. Yom Holedet Sameach.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Sandra, for this bringing together of the personal and the political, and it was a very personal and moving words, and we all share your hopes and your wishes. Our second letter is from Rabbi Aaron Goldstein. I think Aaron is not with us tonight, but he pre-recorded his letter, and we will watch it now together.
Dear State of Israel, Mazel Tov on reaching the age of 75. I'm not quite that old, but following family holidays and a liberal Jewish youth movement summer tour, I signed up for Shnat Shirut, year of service. After one of the best years of my life, I sat at Ben Gurion Airport, contemplating my future. My conclusion was that Aliyah was not for me. I am a British Jew. And yet the words of Judah Halevi, the 11th, 12th century Spanish physician, poet, and philosopher that I learnt as a child, have never left me. My heart is in the East, and I am at the edge of the West. Judah Halevi died on his pilgrimage, yet living in the luxury of another age, barely a year has gone by without me being in Israel. This year it will be to visit my daughter on her Shnat Shirut. This Yom Ha'atzmaut, your Day of Independence, includes existential concern. In other years, for the body of Israel, a struggle for physical existence. This year, it is for your soul. Will you follow a surge towards authoritarian rule, or will you choose democracy? For many years, I've been unable to sing and dance with abandon under the Israeli flag on Yom Ha'atzmaut. But this year, I will wave the flag that has been reclaimed by the hundreds and thousands of Israelis who weekly demonstrate their love for the soul of the state of Israel. A love for the soul that was enshrined in your Declaration of Independence, to develop the land for all its inhabitants and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. Lehitraot, I will be seeing you soon. With love.
Thank you to Rabbi Aaron, who's not with us, but sent his warm and loving letter. That was beautiful. Our next reader would be Suzanne Rubis. So please, Susanna, unmute yourself and read your words.
Thank you. Dear Israel, at 4 o'clock on the afternoon of the 14th of May, 1948, in the Little Art Museum on Rothschild Boulevard in Tel Aviv, David Ben-Gurion announced your formation, the first independent Jewish state in 19 centuries of history, by reading out a proclamation. By virtue of the natural and historic right of the Jewish people, and by resolution of the General Assembly of the United Nations, we hereby proclaim the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine to be called Israel. Only 200 to 300 people were present at this momentous occasion. The dream of a Jewish national home had come true at last. But in his private diary, Ben-Gurion wrote, "I am filled with foreboding. Israel, you were created as a safe haven for all Jews, with freedom of religion, conscience, education, and culture for all your inhabitants. These are lofty ideals, and from the very beginning, you have been held to a higher standard than other nations. From the beginning, too, you have been at war with your Arab neighbors. However, until now, you have never been at war with yourself. Authoritarianism, the enforcement of a single rule on all at the expense of personal freedom, can never be acceptable. Jew cannot be set against Jew in a land where the rights of all Jews should be protected. Democracy must surely prevail. We celebrate your 70th anniversary with joy and pride in what has been achieved. And we hope that the peace of Jerusalem may come soon and in our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan, for giving us some historical insight and quotes from the Declaration of the Independence of the State of Israel alongside your personal words. Thank you very much. Celia Naval, you will be our next reader.
Erev Tov, everybody, and lovely to see people whose paths I've crossed at different times in my life. Here is my letter. Israel, such an important part of the tripod I stand on. The country I was born in, left as a child because already, for my human rights-oriented father, lawyer dad, the experiences and perspectives were very concerning. We may have left the country as our physical base, but the lives of family and friends there have always been a focus for our hearts and interests. There were the weekly letters exchanged between my mum and her parents, bringing news. The yearly crate of Jaffa oranges that would adorn a corner of the dining room. Times of distress and disagreement, but never disengagement. Visits to see family, friends, and the many faces of the land. A period of longer absence, and then, with the arrival of my own children, the decision to take them to see and know Israel. With more personal time, my engagement with Liberal Judaism in France and at European level have led to more trips, a mixture of private time and other activities, including with the University of Tel Aviv through the Friends Network. From the amazing South to the beautiful North, from the urbanized West to the very close and complex East, with strife, but also so many insufficiently highlighted cooperative projects. We in the diaspora, so impressed by the positive developments so far, many of which we've supported, cannot be expected to turn a blind eye or be silent at this time. Our texts tell us that as a people, we were called on to be a light unto the nations. That is indeed a challenge, and when fear and external risks pervert that objective for some, others in the state of Israel and outside have a duty to guarantee an equal space for all in the land. Happy 75th and more.
Thank you very much, Celia, for this family and personal and professional perspective and this letter to the State of Israel. And last one on this go would be Rabbi Leah, that we've heard before, and this will be, I'm sure, a beautiful addition to what we have heard from you already. So, Leah.
Thank you so much. Dear State of Israel, congratulations on reaching the milestone of 75 years of independence. I had hoped to join you in celebrating with light-hearted joy and pride, but the past few months have seen so many of my hopes for you, our Jewish homeland, trampled by those currently serving in your government. And still, as the poet Naftali Herz Imber put it in a text that would become your national anthem, Od lo avda tikvatenu, our hope is not yet lost. As a Jew, I'm schooled in a special kind of hope, a hope which is different to optimism, a hope which is a state of mind, not a state of the world. As the Czech playwright, revolutionary, and ex-president Václav Havel described it, hope is not a prognostication, it is an orientation of the spirit. Even as my heart is filled with concern, the words of Hatikva remind me, our hope is not yet lost. And more than that, we translate our hope into action, even when it looks like we might fail. And so this year, I will celebrate you, the State of Israel, by remaining steadfast in my support for my Israeli siblings in their struggle to defend your soul, so that you may live up to the high ideals expressed in your Declaration of Independence. For them and for myself, I pray in the words of the great poet Leah Goldberg, that hope shall always remain our orientation of the spirit. Lamdeni Elohai, teach me, my God, to pray for freedom, to see, to feel, to breathe, to know, to hope, and to fail. Instruct my lips in blessing, song, and praise, when time renews itself each dawn and night, that my today be not as yesterday. With love and a little trepidation, Leah.
Thank you, Leah, for awakening this hope within us all. René, over to you.
Thank you for these wonderful letters. Now we're going to listen to Maya Aviram. So Maya is a member of Kingston Liberal Synagogue. And on Friday evening, we had Shabbat Yom Ha'atzmaut celebration at KLS. And Maya and other Israeli members of the synagogue have come to talk about their hopes and their worries. And I really wanted us to hear what Maya, an Israeli-born Jew, member of KLS, living in London, feels about the situation. So over to you, Maya.
Thank you. It's really inspiring actually to hear you all. And I must say that
you've probably said in much better words what many of the things that I was going to bring up. So actually, when René asked me a couple of months ago to help with the very few Israelis that are in our liberal community in Kingston, to help celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut, I said, no way. There's just, I can't celebrate it this year. It's a moment of bereavement rather than celebration. And my fellow Israelis felt the same. But at the same time, the opportunity came up to actually do something. Although it was a little thing, it felt at that time, it's something that has grown more and more. And even though I've been living abroad for such a long time, so I wasn't able to join the demonstrations in Israel, which obviously I would have. Suddenly, a friend of mine invited me to join the WhatsApp group that has just started, to start possible demonstrations, to come up with ideas, to see, and it was sort of gaining speed, gaining strength. More and more people joined, and I thought, whoa, there's a little thing that I can do. I was last summer, actually in September, before the elections, demonstrating along Kvish Arba with a friend of mine somewhere near Kfar Saba or something, with a flag. We were about 4 women who demonstrated, and I thought, oh, okay, fine. There wasn't that, I mean, there were people demonstrating all around the country, but there wasn't anything as big as that. And here in London, when I went to the first demonstration in Kensington near the Israeli embassy, it felt really embarrassing initially. I thought, whoa, I can't come with an Israeli flag. I was a bit scared. I felt, embarrassed. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but by joining that group and seeing other Israelis actually holding up the flag, which suddenly meant something completely different. It wasn't anymore like it's actually been for quite a few years, especially in Yom Yerushalayim, a sign of unhealthy nationalism. Suddenly there was a sort of a feeling of something started to grow, a feeling of reclaiming that flag in support of real democracy. And by real democracy, actually mean, I know the flag probably doesn't quite show it, but I've changed my flag to add a few slogans like democracy for all and so on, to suddenly include many more people in Israel. And I felt sort of a little bit of pride that I'd lost over the years. The sort of, when I sort of didn't tell people anymore that I was really Israeli, maybe Jewish, but not Israeli. And I was trying to kind of hide my accent, which is quite obvious to some people. There was a little bit of something sort of ignited in a way of a real tikva, a real hope, a reclaiming of that feeling that I'd lost when in the past, when I was little, was dancing to the Yom Ha'atzmaut flag and my ballet group, and I was so proud of it. All that had gone actually not just in the last few months, but already years ago when I felt that there was a lot of injustice going on in Israel. So joining the demonstrations was suddenly such an empowering thing. I felt I was talking to people who came from all sorts of different political affiliations, I guess, in Israel, some maybe not as left-wing as I see myself, but everyone actually working towards the same goal of ridding this Israel of this horrible new cancer, as I see it. And there was this togetherness, a sort of a fight for something better to emerge. And I feel now that, as some of you have said already, that this reclaiming of the flag, of actually walking through the streets of London, I teach at the Foreign Office, I teach Hebrew there, and suddenly I was actually demonstrating outside, and I thought, oh my God, if people see me. But I think the police really liked us. I think it was the most peaceful demonstration that they've ever attended. And the policemen walked with us to the Savoy Hotel where Bibi Netanyahu was. And it felt suddenly, wow, I was waving an Israeli flag in London, a thing that I would not even do, not in my own house, I wouldn't have a flag, because it's sort of a nationalistic kind of thing.
which somehow felt completely wrong. All of a sudden, all the good things came together, the singing, the chatting to other Israelis. It felt like actually there is hope. And last night I watched the alternative Yom HaZikaron, which was led by Yossi Tzabari, who's a human rights, spoken word artist, human rights activist, very much against the settlement movement. And there were Palestinians and Israelis and bereaved families celebrating together. I could hear in the background the shouting of, obviously, as they called it, sort of fascists, calling them all down. But there was a little flame, a little light that was on the stage next to them. Apparently, it was the original light from after Hiroshima, after the bombing of Hiroshima, which was then rekindled or helped to by other wars, maybe the Ukrainian as well, I'm not sure, but several wars that have sort of fed that little light, which was kept alight since then. And suddenly I felt really a togetherness with my Israeli friends, with my family in Israel, who all joined the demonstrations. And there was a feeling that we, even Israelis here abroad, have got this sort of power to do something small, to open up something which actually should have been opened up even before this government started. And this kind of feeling of pride, of reclaiming a country that I could not, I've moved here not because I was against Israel, it was for personal reasons. I've lived here for so many years, raised my kids over here, and it's amazing how my heart is still in Israel. I love that country, but I wasn't proud anymore to talk about it in the positive light. And I've regained my pride because I actually see that there are people like me, and many, many of them, hundreds of thousands, and maybe, hopefully, millions around the world, and joining them and being together in this movement, which might actually change if we achieve something at the end, and this government doesn't get what it wants, might actually lead to something even better than what we seem to have lost. This sort of feeling of fighting, by the way, is only there because I feel that there is something to lose. So actually that ignited in me the feeling that I love Israel so much that that's the only place in the world where the politics can anger me so much. Brexit, I was really angry. There were so many things that anger me. But whenever something happens in Israel, it actually stabs me. It goes into my heart, my stomach. I really feel it in a very visceral way. And the demonstrations, which I will keep joining, obviously I'll come next weekend to the big Yom Ha'atzmaut thing, and hopefully I'll meet some of you. It's sort of given me tikva. Yeah, so that's all I want to say. And I don't feel that I can now say again that I'm an Israeli without hiding, as just saying that I'm Israeli, but not of that government. But there are many like me, and I'm very proud to be one of the group, and I'm very proud to have had the opportunity, and still having it, to actually join these fantastic people who've arranged it all and done it here and in other places in the world to show solidarity with all our Israeli brothers and sisters in Israel. So yeah, and thank you for everything you all said. It's very inspiring.
Thank you, Maya, for your words. And when is exactly the demonstration on Sunday? I know that Rabbi Leah has mentioned it.
Yeah, 1 o'clock, and I think the place will usually be revealed closer to the time, 1 or 1:30, somewhere in central London.
Okay.
And
so
it
we'll
should
make
be interesting. It will be like Kaplan Street style, with stalls and speakers and Israeli folk dancing. And the people who will be there will be like-minded people, which is a really good feeling. It's not hijacked by nationalists. So that I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be there certainly, and I hope many of us will join as well. Thank you, Maya. Thank you. It's been a real honor to listen to your words tonight. I'm going to invite now Rabbi Charlie Baginski to read a prayer for Israel, which was written by Rabbi Ayala Ronen Samuels.
Dur Yisrael, Rock and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel at this moment, when its foundations are shaking and the splendor of its skies are darkening. Protect it with your loving kindness from those working to undermine its institutions and from its enemies who are just waiting to attack her while she's in distress. Bestow your light and truth upon its leaders, judges, and elected representatives, those struggling to defend its institutions, its citizens crying out to protect it, filling its streets in a struggle for its soul. Strengthen the defenders of our holy land. Be mindful of our brothers and sisters in the lands of the diaspora, that they may join us in our outcry and participate in safeguarding the state of the Jewish people. Open our hearts that we may hear our neighbours' pain and hopes. Teach us always to renew the inherent goodness in the creation of the state.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Charlie. Rabbi Leah, you were talking about hope, and Maya, you were talking about pride. And I think the prayer written by Rabbi Ayala, Ronen Samuels, and prayer in general are maybe the bringing together of this hope, the pride, and the sense of coming together with other people that Maya, you also emphasized, the singing together, the being part, not being alone when facing something that is worrying or distressing, finding your people in the face of a struggle. That's something that is so important, and that is something that we are searching for. And I think something that is very heartwarming to see in the protests in London is how the Israeli community and the Jewish community work together, come together with this shared interest, hope, pride, worry, and protest. So this is something that I think is a very powerful outcome. And we turn now to another series of letters, personal that is touching the national, the sacred, the political, but always the personal voice, the different personal voices that are echoing our own. And the first letter we will hear now will be from Sarah Ravidan.
As we celebrate 3/4 of a century of the State of Israel, we look back in awe of the progress this tiny state has made. In technology, medicine, agriculture, to name but 3, Israel is a leading light to the other nations of the world. Israel has welcomed Jews from every corner and denomination of the earth, growing year on year to become this fine example of democracy to the whole wide world. From the Golan in the north to Eilat in the south, in one day, one can experience skiing on Mount Hermon and scuba diving in the Red Sea. How proud are we of the soldiers of the IDF defending the borders of Israel and keeping the people within safe from harm. The IDF has the latest technology to prevent terror, but sadly, over the past 75 years, we have lost many brothers and sisters. Jerusalem, the capital city of gold, blending together the ancient walls of the temple with the surrounding old city, and the 21st century light rail tram network traveling round the city, just like any other modern European country. Let us rejoice and celebrate 75 glorious years since the establishment of the State of Israel in Independence Hall in Tel Aviv in May 1948. Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you, Sarah, for these strong words this evening. And our next reader would be Rabbi Ariel J. Friedlander.
Dear Israel, I am so glad that you exist. From generation to generation, My ancestors have fled from one country to another, hoping to find a home where they could live in safety and bring up their children and their children's children. Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, there has been that one secure haven that Jews have been missing for more than 2,000 years. The knowledge of its existence gives hope to those of us still struggling with the vicissitudes of diaspora life. Yes, I remain in Galut. I tell myself that I am too pale, with that Eastern European DNA. I'm too pale to survive the heat of Middle Eastern life. I will burn there. Perhaps. Or perhaps the apparently comfortable life I'm currently living dilutes any imperative to step into the heat of life in Haaretz. Yet whilst I try to figure it out, Israel is always in my heart. From the teenager picking grapefruit on Kibbutz Mayan Tzvi, to the tourist opening my arms to the waterfall of the Bania Spring, to the rabbinical student drinking tea at the Yimka between classes at the HUC Jerusalem campus. Israel is always in my heart. Of course, I worry. I worry for my 19-year-old cousin currently on active duty, but he can't say where. I worry for my family and friends when the app shows another alert. I worry for the safety and security of all who live there. Israel is always in my heart. For your 75th birthday, may I wish that the talents that once made the desert bloom will find the way to bring forth fruit from the current situation, so there may be peace and prosperity throughout the land. Yom Haledet Sameach.
Thank you, Rabbi Ariel, for opening your heart with your hopes and worries and wishes for the future. Thank you. And next we will hear from Jane Michelson. Jane, you're still muted, so you will need to unmute yourself.
Uh-huh. Try again. O Israel, do not forsake the righteous ways for the treacherous paths of tyranny. Politicians, naming no names, skilled in the arts of deception, deflection, distraction, will mislead in the name of patriotism. We are a people bruised with grief, whose fragile survival is a wonder. That erosion of kindness which trades on fear, we will resist. Israelis, diasporan Jews, stand together against the hammer blows that seek to crack the thin shell of our humanity. Born out of the shattered shards of the Holocaust, Israel saw itself a beacon of democracy, a Jewish land, a home of our own when homelands expelled us, denied us the right to fair existence, murdered with terrifying ease. 75 years can be a lifetime. Make it a celebration. For each year, a pearl of justice. Let wisdom crown the heads of state, that they remember who we are and why this matters. Pray this comes to pass. Pray that we have the strength to make it so. Amen.
Amen, amen. Thank you very much for these beautiful images and beautiful wishes. Owen Power, you will be our next presenter.
Good evening from Salford. Dear Israel, for as long as I can remember, I've been fascinated by you. In 1994, I visited you and was blown away by your history coming alive, the sights, the deserts, Jerusalem, the frantic pace, the atmosphere, and by the fact I was there. It was not until the 2010s, when I was a postgraduate at the Manchester Centre for Jewish Studies, I really got you. Reading Jewish-Christian relations, the Jews in Europe, and the histories of the Holocaust by the gifted scholar Martin Gilbert, I was overwhelmed by the unrelentless anti-Semitism from classical Rome and Greece to the Shoah. Post-Holocaust theologies focus on how other the Shoah was, almost impossible to comprehend. L.A. Wiesel wrote about despair. Richard Rubinstein, the death of God. Sherwin Wine rejected God. Others, such as Susanna Herschel and Hyman Maccabi, wrote about Christian responsibility. Gilbert's history highlights the sheer impossibility of escaping the horror because of the active cooperation by the non-Jewish population with the final solution and the indifference of the world. There were some heroic acts of bravery by individuals and groups to rescue Jews, but the reality is 6 million Jews perished. Israel, for most Jews, the dark reality is the world cannot be relied upon to defend them against anti-Semitism, so they can only do it themselves in a place of safety, which is you. You are the safe house for Jews everywhere, their insurance policy. Of course, you are not perfect, as the country is governed with all the characteristics people possess: vision, fairness, passion, as well as weakness, greed, and with some dishonoring the Declaration of Independence. However, governments come and governments go, which does not detract from the vitalness of your need for a place of safety. Happy 75th birthday, Israel. May you be a safe haven forever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Owen. Our last letter, final letter for tonight, would be from my colleague and friend, Rabbi René. So over to you, René.
Thank you, Gili. Happy Independence Day, Israel. Now you've reached a mature age of 75. For a human being, it's a lot. For a country, it's still infancy. There is still much you have to learn, right? I've always loved you. You've always been part of my Jewish horizon, of my Jewish identity. I know that there is a tiny country the size of Wales where I can go and feel at home. I loved living in Jerusalem during my rabbinic studies. I loved walking in your streets on Erev Shabbat, listening to families singing Shabbat Zmirot, the sound of praise in all the little synagogues. And when I wanted to have a more eventful Shabbat, I would go to Tel Aviv or Haifa. A small country, and yet so diverse. I love your countryside. I love your cities. I love to see how you face changes almost before my eyes each time I'm coming back. But I'm also deeply worried. There are so many fault lines in your population, religious against secular, Ashkenazi against Mizrahi, the rich and the poor, the Jewish and the Palestinian. I'm worried about your political choices. Why are you sending to the Knesset representatives who sow divisions instead of being Rodfei Shalom, those who like air and seek peace? Why is part of your population blind and deaf to the plight of your neighbors? And why do you discard so easily our critics in the diaspora when you ask for our help to defend your name in the world? We love you and we care for you abroad, but you have to listen to us. I saw the massive demonstrations in the streets of your cities to defend a certain idea of Israel, a country for all, a country that embraces diversity, a country open to all Jews around the world. This is why I will always love you. Thank you. So now we have reached the end of our Yom Ha'atzmaut celebration, and we will finish with Tikva. And we will have on the screen only the music and also the words. So maybe we can have this kind of, I love the Zoom cacophony when we all unmute ourselves and sing together via Tikva. It's not going to sound very, very nice, but it's going to sound, coming from the heart. So let's unmute ourselves and sing together via Tikva. So we'll have the music in a moment on the screen. We can't see it. Nefesh Yehudi Thank you, René. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Yom Ha'atzmaut Sameach, and we hope to see you on Sunday. So I don't know where the location is actually revealed last minute. Is it on Facebook or
it will be on Facebook, and I'm sure we'll share it on the Rabbi's mailing list, and then people can share it in their congregations' WhatsApp.